let's talk a little bit about FanDuel, because FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, and you can score early this season with FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now to get in on the action. The app is simple to use, and they have a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And you can become a winner on FanDuel, just like our dear friend Wayne Trotter, who won a lot of money, $120 off a $5 four-part same-game parlay the other day. That's $120 on 5. If you send us your winning ticket, you could be featured on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, because there is no better place to win than FanDuel. All right, Bull, we mentioned it off the top. Let's get into some of the stats here. We're talking Ravens versus Browns. Which team truly has the #1 defense in the NFL this season? I'm going to let you guys get into this discussion. I just wanted to point out some stats here that I think will help give a little context to how good these two defenses have been. So let's start with the first stat. The fewest net yards allowed in a game this season. Well, it's #1 Cleveland, it's #2 Cleveland, and it's #3 Cleveland this season. No team, in terms of yards allowed, has been better than the Cleveland Browns this season. We go to the next stat, Steve. How about touchdowns allowed? The Ravens have allowed 9 touchdowns on defense this season in 9 games. That's 105 drives, 9 touchdowns allowed. The Browns defense, which we all know has been phenomenal in its own right, they're tied with the Steelers for 5th with 15. That is 40% more than the Ravens have given up this season. 9 touchdowns in 5 drives. Let's go to the next stat, Steve. How about fewest first downs allowed? Cleveland is only allowed 96 first downs in 8 games. Baltimore 149. The difference between 1 and 2, Dallas at 134, is 38. That's the same difference from Dallas to the 20th team in the league, is the 38 first down difference. No team allows fewer first downs. We talk about sacks, a very important defensive stat. Well, the Ravens lead the league in sacks this season, but in sacks per game, they're tied for first at 3.9. I wanted to give you the per game because not every team's played 8 games. The Browns tied for third with 3.4. But here's the caveat to that. Steve, we go to the next one. Highest sack percentage, so sacks per drop back. That's where the Browns top the Baltimore Ravens, 11.3. Essentially, every 10 times the opposing team drops back to throw the ball, they're getting sacked. That is the highest rate in the NFL. Couple more here, just some advanced analytics.
Before you get to the advanced analytics, let me jump in for 1 second.
Sure.
Because what all of those stats don't account for that you've given us to this point is quality of opponent. That, now, obviously, if you're not, at this point, we're at the halfway point of the season. So it's enough of a sample size that obviously if you're #1 or you're #3, you're good. How good, though, you need to know the opponents, like the quality of the opponents compared to the other people in that mix.
Yeah, and I wasn't going to give you the 9 opponents versus the 8 opponents game by game, but just trying to give you a context. Pro Football Reference has this really cool stat, and I don't know the exact formula, but before I show you it, you'll see where these two teams rank compared to the rest of the league. It's called expected defensive points added. So how many points your defense got a 3 and out led to points. Short field led to points. I don't exactly know the formula, but look at the numbers. #1 in the league, Baltimore, 85.51 defensive points added this season. #2, the Browns at 85.06. They've played a game fewer, keep in mind.
So really the Browns is better if you do it on a per-game basis.
Yeah. But look at 3, 4, and 5. That's a 50-point gap between those two. Impressive. Let's go to DVOA, which Bull does take into account a little bit of the opponent you played. This is the top DVOAs ever through 9 weeks. The 2007 Patriots had the top DVOA ever tracked through 9 weeks. The 2023 Ravens, the 3rd highest DVOA ever tracked at 49%.
2007 Patriots is like absurd.
DVOA essentially takes into account opponent, time, and measures your success on a certain play versus the league average on similar plays. Obviously, that's the 3rd highest DVOA through 9 weeks of all time. And here's success rate, which counts this season, how successful a defense has been in stopping teams. They only started tracking this since 2016. Look at the top 2 teams. The Browns this season, 69.4% success rate. This according to Next Gen Stats. The 2023 Ravens, the 2nd highest, or I guess tied for 2nd highest, ever tracked at 63.8%. Those are some of the numbers. Guys, in your opinion, Do the Browns have the number 1 defense in the NFL right now, or does Baltimore?
Tyvis, start us off.
Man, that was a lot of.
That's a lot of information to take in, right?
I mean, I think it goes back to Bull's point about who each team played, but you can't necessarily say that because, like, the Ravens and the Browns played some similar teams, and as good as their defense is, they might have not had that same success against those teams. Like, I think that let me see that chart that shows the Browns net yards. The top 3 net performance.
One thing I think is important to keep in mind: the 3 of us have watched every moment of every Browns game.
Yes.
Now I can't speak for you guys, but I've seen a decent amount of the Ravens, but I haven't seen every play of every Ravens game.
Right.
I'm sure you guys are the same, probably, right?
No,
so in terms of the eye test, it's a little hard because we've
Can I also
seen
say
the
one
Browns
thing
more
real
than the
quick?
Ravens.
You talk about quality opponents.
Yeah.
They've played a lot of the same teams.
That's what
both
I'm
teams
saying.
Have played Cincinnati. Both teams have played Indy. Both teams have played Pittsburgh. Both teams have played Tennessee. Both teams have played Arizona. Both teams have played Seattle.
And that's
They've played
what,
7 of the same.
That's where I
teams,
was about to go with it.
7
like,
already of the same team?
I was going to say.
The only 2 teams that Baltimore's played that Cleveland hasn't played is Houston and Detroit. The other 7 of their opponents are 7 of the 8 opponents.
Well,
that
it
Browns
can't
have
be
played.
7 because they played each other. That's not. You're saying that's the same opponent?
Yeah, they'll play each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who are the 2? So what is the one game? Who's the only team the Browns have played that the Ravens haven't played?
The Browns have played
San Francisco.
San Francisco is the
Okay,
only
so
team that they've played that the Ravens.
So the
haven't
Browns have
played
played San Francisco. The Ravens haven't, and they played great against San Francisco defensively. The Ravens have played the Lions
and Houston.
And Houston.
And week 1 against Houston.
What's that?
Week 1 against Houston. Yeah.
Right. So and those teams are good offensively as well.
Well,
So
my whole point is that they played the same amount, and although you could say that Arizona's offense isn't good or Tennessee's offense isn't good,
yeah.
they still played. The Ravens played them too, and they didn't hold them to those type of numbers
They
as
did.
well.
Now,
So
in fairness,
that is something to think about.
In fairness, though, the Cardinals had, when they played the Ravens, they had Josh Dobbs. Now, Josh Dobbs isn't great, but he's better than the kid who played last week.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah.
I mean, when I look at it, when you look at a defense, what's the number 1 stat that a lot of people care about? Sacks, takeaways, and points.
I only care about points. I mean, ultimately.
I care about
that's the most important.
I really care about. I'm a DB, so I care about the takeaways.
Yeah, I mean, that's big. But
they tied, so
yeah.
I mean, listen. If all of these stats is true, it should be a 6-3 game. Is what we're about to get. But I mean, obviously, I'm biased because I like the Browns defense and I love the talent that they got. The Ravens, though, I mean,
it's we're splitting hairs.
That's what
here.
I'm saying. Like both of them
Yeah.
is really good. I can't say who has the number 1 defense. I really don't know.
Yeah.
Like
what?
You can make an argument for both, and I won't tell you're wrong. Both of them is really good
That's
defense.
the point of a debate show, Todd.
I can't, but I
I'll tell you
can't
this.
choose. There's no way
I'll
to
tell you
choose
this.
one.
If the Browns win this game, then I'm taking the Browns because the Browns defense has a much tougher test this week. Well, Watson's playing, so I'm not going to say much tougher test. But obviously Lamar's playing a lot better than Watson right now. So it's a tougher test this week plus it's on the road. It's a tougher test for the Browns defense than it is for the Ravens defense. So if the Browns win the defensive battle this week, if I had to say right now, you go, and then I'll go after you. Go ahead.
Man, come on, man. Like, listen, I'm not about to sit up here and bow. I saw the Ravens get touched just like y'all did against the Colts. I saw them get touched.
We got touched against the Colts.
Yeah, I know. So it's the same difference. Like
That's what I'm saying.
My thing is the reason I'm going with the Cleveland Browns is we've been dominant against teams, and when I mean dominant, under 50 yards, 70-something yards, 140-something yards. And by the way, let's be real. The reason our defense is better than their defense is if you go out and you watch the Ravens play, they got their quarterback, and they know they don't have to hold nobody to 0 points. Lamar Jackson and his cast of characters have a solid offense. They can go, and as a matter of fact, people are saying he's playing like the MVP right now. So the level of stress that's on their defense ain't the same. We are not built the same. Lamar Jackson is out here putting up decent numbers. Look at them numbers he's putting up. Guess what we had? P.J. Walker. We can't win no games. We had DTR. We played the majority of our games with P.J. Walker and DTR, and we knew to beat the 49ers, you had to hold them to a certain amount of points. To beat the Bengals, you had to hold them to – we don't got no juggernaut offense. Our quarterback play has been horrible. But guess what? Our defense has been the reason we've won games. If you were Lamar Jackson them, they could say they 7-2 because of Lamar Jackson and what he's doing. For us, our defense is the reason, the whole sole reason that we have 5 wins. And on top of it, they don't have Myles Garrett. If everything's being equal, and it's like basketball, if everything being equal, you going to say, well, who got the star player? Charles Barkley said all the time, star player. If you got LeBron, he's the equalizer. I like their defense. I like the guys in the secondary. I even like what they're doing up front. But Kyle Van Noy and your boy Jadavian, that's cool. That's fine. But y'all don't got the premier guy. They got good guys.
They don't got a premier guy.
We got a guy that could take over and win you a football game. And they don't got that. I'm going with the Browns.
All right. I agree with
pretty
much
all
everything
of that.
G said there. Listen, this is splitting hairs. It's 51-49 Browns.
Yep.
It's as close as it gets.
Mm-hmm.
But for a lot of the reasons G said, and I'm going to start with the most important thing he said, and that's Myles Garrett. That, in the end, is the difference. Now, I could argue the other way and say, if Myles Garrett gets hurt, the Browns are screwed.
Yes.
Whereas the Ravens don't necessarily have that one player that would be a big problem if he got hurt. I will say, I do think the Ravens have, if you look at the 3 units on the defense, I think the Ravens' edge at linebacker is pretty significant over the Browns, I think. Whereas the Browns are better on the D-line and the secondary, but not by as much as I think the Ravens are ahead at linebacker. But overall, I think the Browns are ahead by a hair. I think what you said about the Ravens are playing all these games with a lot of confidence in their offense, and that takes pressure off the defense. The Browns have not been able to play that way the entire season. Both teams are great. Both teams, I do think Marlon Humphrey is an elite corner.
Yes.
I know he's been hurt the last couple of years, but the Browns have 2 elite corners.
Right. Just because you don't hear about Emerson as much.
It is zero knock at the Ravens. They're a fantastic defense. And by the end of the year, maybe they are number 1. We'll see. But right now, today, if I had to choose,
That man got 6
Hold on.
by a slight margin,
Yes,
I'm taking the Browns.
he got 6 picks.
Who's this Dwight Stone? Who's this Geno Stone? This sounds like a creative player for Madden.
Dude got 6
He got
picks.
34 tackles, which is a lot for a
6
corner.
INT, yeah. I guess they
7
have,
pass
they have
breakup.
2 elite corners.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
about to say,
man. Hey, 6
dude,
picks too?
Sorry.
Dude like that.
Yeah,
He
that's
leads
pretty
the
wild.
NFL in interceptions this season, G. Also, last week he picked off Geno Smith. It was the first ever Geno-on-Geno interception.
By the way, Geno Smith is not playing well.
Geno
Tell
and
me
Geno
about it. He's on
Prime.
my fantasy
He
team.
is not playing well, Geno Smith.
He got paid.
But the Browns do. The Browns have a slight advantage.
Slight.
It's
Because of
very
Myles
ever so
Garrett.
slight. I love the linebacker Owe. I can't think of his first name.
The dude from Penn State.
Yeah, he's become a really, really good player.
Yeah. He ran a 4.3 at the combine and shot right into the second
Now,
round.
didn't they get another dude that tore his ACL from Michigan or something?
Yeah,
David
David
Ojabo.
Ojabo.
Jabo, he's
I wanted the Browns to draft him.
But
He
they
had,
got
tore,
some
he had
speed.
tore his Achilles in his workout.
and and them moving Patrick Queen outside of the middle, and now you have Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen.
And they drafted a rookie from Clemson, didn't
He
they?
was a big difference maker.
Yeah.
For them.
Roquan Smith?
Because their defense
Yeah.
was not very good last year, and they got him. And you're right, Patrick Queen, who seemed like he was trending toward a bust, has now gotten better.
Yeah.
And Marlon Humphrey has been hurt the last couple of years. So
He's healthy.
having him healthy, it's really close. But I think the Browns slight edge.
Because of Myles Garrett.
I think ultimately, and I do agree with G. Like they've had more dominant efforts.
Yeah.
The Browns, yeah.
The Browns have more dominant
Well, I
efforts.
got to look at some scores. Hold on.
Although,
Ty, you want the scores for each?
Yeah,
honestly,
give
what
me
the
the rate.
Ravens did. What the Ravens did to both the Lions and the Seahawks, especially the Lions,
Yeah.
because the Lions' offense has been great
That's what
all
I'm
year.
saying. That's what I'm
That was
saying.
pretty
Like
impressive.
I don't know
And
how
that's
y'all.
why it's so close, but I'm going to take the Browns by a hair.
2 things real quick. We just mentioned a bunch of really good defensive players on the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
And I agree with you guys. I think it's 51-49 Browns. I think this may be the closest discussion or topic we've had where you can make a damn good case for either side.
Did you poll this?
We did. I'll give you the results at the
Okay.
end.
Yeah, but of course our fans.
We didn't mention Justin Madubuike on the Ravens either yet. Their defensive tackles had a sacks in 6 straight games. He's going to be part of the 5 facts you got to know tomorrow.
Okay.
Who might be the most underrated defensive tackle in all of football.
Yeah.
He leads the team in sacks. 3rd-round pick out of A&M a couple
I
of
had
years
no
ago.
idea that guy led the team in sacks.
That was
He's
it.
been
They-
phenomenal. He has a sack in
they-
6 straight games, which
Yeah.
is a new Baltimore record. You want some scores real quick, Tyvis?
Yeah, let me get their score.
The Ravens held Houston to 9 points, and that was C.J.
Now, that was
Stroud's
his first game ever, though.
Yeah,
so,
that,
you know,
yeah, we ain't gonna count that.
Bull, you can tell us a little bit more about this. Cincinnati, they won 27-24. The Bengals scored late, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they didn't. Listen, we all know that Burrow wasn't playing well early in the season, like he didn't against the Browns. But
put up
that
20
game wasn't as close as the final score.
I'm about to say, if they see each other again, I got my money on Cincy.
They lost in overtime to Indianapolis, 22-19.
Yeah, they played. Their offense was terrible in that game. That was
Yeah.
more about their offense.
They beat Cleveland 28-3. They lost to Pittsburgh 17-10. They were up that entire game.
Yeah,
Kenny
they-
Pickett
they
had that weird,
let it
crazy
get away
fourth
at the
quarter.
end. Yeah.
They held Tennessee to 16 points. They held Detroit to 6 points. They held Arizona to 24. And shouldn't say they held.
A lot of that was in garbage time.
Arizona scored 17 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Man, when you hear stuff like that,
And then they held
though-
Seattle to 3 points.
Yeah. I mean, what they did to Seattle and Detroit was very impressive.
Yeah, it was.
But what the Browns did to the Bengals and Tennessee, Arizona, I can't get as worked up about because that was just horrible.
Yeah.
But Tennessee's offense has been decent this year besides the Browns game.
Well, Will Levis has been the spark plug.
He looks good.
It does.
Yeah, it does.
I can't. Either way.
The rest of the season, you know what? Every
Either
other
way.
team in the league would trade defenses with either of these teams.
These are the 2 best, right? There's
Without a
no
doubt. It's
other
not close.
question
It
that
ain't-
someone
yeah.
else could be in that
There's
conversation.
no, but the next group is probably like San Francisco.
And then
Philly,
don't
and a
even get
couple
me
others.
started. They think Steve Wilkes about to get fired. That's a shame. That's a shame. You can't
They
have
lost 3 in a row.
you can't have a defense.
pulled him
like
out of the
that.
booth.
Yeah, I seen that. You can't have a defense like that and can't produce like that. That's and the dude last year just had them number 1. Like
And they got
Head and shoulders
Chase.
for
They got
everybody.
Chase Young now.
Yeah, that was a nice
he
addition.
better save his job.